What's up, film lovers? Welcome back. Today we're talking about Scary Movie 6. And to do that right, we got to go back to where it all started. The year was 2000. Keenan Ivory Wayans directs and Marlon and Sean Wayans co-write and star in the original Scary Movie, a sharp, raunchy, laugh-out parody of films like Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and others. It was an absolute cultural moment. The film was a massive hit and launched a franchise. They actually came back and did Scary Movie 2 in 2001, which was also hilarious. And then, poof, disappeared. Marlon Wayans revealed in an interview that they didn't leave by choice. The Weinsteins essentially stripped the franchise from them. In his own words, "We got an announcement on New Year's Eve that we're doing Scary Movie 3. The franchise was stripped away from us, and we were just asking for our fair share." So, Scary Movie 3, 4, and 5, you may remember with Charlie Sheen, was released in 2003, and 2006, and 2013. And what's interesting, they were made without the Wayans Brothers, but it was made by some of the people that made Airplane and Naked Gun back in the 70s and 80s, and some of the films in the 90s. They were phased out in the 90s because their comedy got stale and old. So, going back, to Scary Movie, the 3 and 4 and 5, it was different creative teams and diminishing returns. Now, more than 2 decades later, Marlon and Sean Wayans and Keenan Ivory Wayans are back, serving as writers and producers on Scary Movie 6, a reboot of the franchise through Miramax and Paramount. The film parodies a new wave of horror, Get Out, Longlegs, Megan, Weapons, and brings back familiar faces Shorty and Cindy. Now, on paper, this sounds like a dream comeback. In practice, film lovers, well, we need to talk. Overall, I gotta say, this film was a huge, massive, astronomical disappointment. And this one hurts, okay? I love the Wayans Brothers. Grew up on them. But love doesn't equal a pass when the laughs are not landing. The jokes feel stale, and they actually really are basically in dad joke territory. And I love some dad jokes, but this felt like dad jokes. There were a couple of chuckles here and there, but most of the comedy felt recycled, flat, and dated. It just didn't feel fresh. It felt like a reunion that maybe should have stayed on the reunion tour circuit. Now, this movie made me think. This is controversial. Maybe comedic movies, comedy in general, let's say comedic movies, belongs to the younger generation. And I mean that with the deepest respect. There's a certain pattern forming here that I'm seeing. You know, I saw this all the way back with Dumb and Dumber 2 when Jim Carrey came back for that sequel. Scary Movie 6, the Expendables franchise, some of the recent fare on Amazon like Balls Up that was made by Farley Brothers, older generation comedies that are banking on nostalgia, but delivering nothing that really feels new. Comedy needs new voices, new energy, new perspective. And I think we've seen that from time to time. You know, like for example, Robin Williams. In the 90s, he was huge, but later, his comedic talents sort of started diminishing, if you started to notice. And he started to see that and started to do more dramatic roles. And also, too, I think the box office is telling the story. Younger audiences are driving what works now because young filmmakers and creators are making things that actually speak to them. I mean, take a look at this past weekend with Obsession and Backrooms. 2 young filmmakers making films that are grossing over $100 million. There's a reason why content born on YouTube and TikTok hits different. Those creators are in the moment. They're not looking backwards. Hollywood is cycling out of the old and bringing in the new. And that's not a bad thing. This has happened before. In the 1970s, you had a generation like Spielberg, Lucas, Coppola, a new generation that blew the doors off of Hollywood's old guard. We're in that moment right now. And the Wayans brothers, they were once that generation. That's the irony. They were actually blowing out the Zuckerbergs, the guys that made Airplane out of the water with their own style. I gotta say, this movie feels way too self-aware, and not in a good way. There's a difference between clever meta humor and a film that constantly is winking at itself. Scary Movie 6 leans so hard into its own commentary on its own reality that it loses the actual comedy underneath it. He-Man, Expendables, Scary Movie. Hollywood keeps going back to the well on the properties that defined other eras. And people, the generation that's going to the movies are the younger generation right now. They don't care about He-Man. They don't care about Mandalorian. Some maybe do, actually. At some point, you have to ask, who is this actually for? The nostalgia play only works if the execution is there. And here, in this film, it's not. So, my overall thoughts on this film, I gotta say, wait for it on video on demand. Don't spend the full theater ticket price. And it's a sad thing to say because the Wayans brothers are generally comedy legends and nothing takes that away from them. But Scary Movie 6 made me feel old, and not in a nostalgic way. In a way that made me say to myself, maybe some things should stay in the past kind of way. Comedy's evolving. The new voices are out there. And sometimes the most honest thing a film can do is remind you of that. In general, I felt kind of sad watching this movie because I miss those days. I definitely remember the laugh out moments in watching the original Scary Movie, being in the theater, and wanting to relive that. But at the same time, I feel like there's a little bit of growth in me in realizing that, you know what? The past needs to die with the past. And I feel like this is one of those scenarios. So thank you guys for watching my review. As always, film lovers, in a world where you can be anything, be kind to yourself, be kind to your family, and be kind to the people around you. I'll see you at the movies. Thanks.